This alien girl's bite would have killed any alien, but not the human. Captain Alex Rhodes wiped sweat from his brow as he surveyed the alien landscape. The twin peaks of Mount Giralda loomed in the distance, their copper-colored slopes reflecting the harsh sunlight of Nexus 9. His massive battle armor, forged from reinforced titanium alloy, felt heavier than usual in the planet's dense atmosphere. "Perimeter secure, Captain," Lieutenant Donovan's voice crackled through his comm unit. "No signs of hostiles within 2 clicks." "Copy that," Alex replied, adjusting his grip on his pulse rifle. "Maintain vigilance. These Aurelians are known for their stealth capabilities." The United Earth Defense Force had been deployed to Nexus 9 following reports of Aurelian expansion into this sector. Intelligence suggested they were establishing a forward operating base, potentially threatening 3 human colony worlds. As commander of the 7th Tactical Response Unit, Alex had been tasked with reconnaissance and, if necessary, neutralization of any threat. What command hadn't mentioned was the sweltering heat. His environmental systems were working overtime, and still sweat trickled down his neck and back. The armor's cooling systems hummed loudly, struggling against the planet's dual suns. "Movement detected. Northeast quadrant," Sergeant Campbell reported suddenly. "Single life form, approaching fast." Alex turned, raising his weapon. Through the dense purple foliage, he caught glimpses of something moving with predatory grace. His HUD flickered, attempting to lock onto the target. "Hold positions," he ordered. "Let's see what we're dealing with." The undergrowth parted and she emerged. An Aurelian female stood before him, her golden skin gleaming in the sunlight. Her silver hair whipped around her face in the hot breeze, and her yellow eyes fixed on him with unmistakable hostility. She was tall and lithe, her muscular frame evident beneath what appeared to be some kind of ceremonial armor. Her chest heaved with exertion or rage, possibly both. Alex had studied the Aurelian species extensively during tactical briefings. Apex predators, evolved from carnivorous hunters on their homeworld, enhanced strength, agility, and senses. And during certain biological cycles, they became even more dangerous. Their aggression heightened, their territorial instincts amplified. The female bared her fangs, each one at least an inch long and gleaming white against her golden skin. Her claws extended, scraping against his armor as she circled him. "Stand down," Alex commanded, keeping his weapon trained on her. "We don't want conflict." She hissed something in her native tongue, a series of clicks and growls that his translator struggled to process. Finally, it rendered, "Human filth, trespassing on sacred ground during ascension. Death is your only reward." Ascension, the mating cycle. Alex cursed silently. Of all the times to encounter an Aurelian, this was possibly the worst. During ascension, they were known to be unpredictable, aggressive, and lethal. "We mean no disrespect," he tried again. "We're conducting a standard reconnaissance mission. If this area has cultural significance..." He didn't finish. The Aurelian lunged, her movement so quick his enhanced reflexes barely registered it. She slammed into him, the force sending him staggering back despite his armor's stabilizers. Her claws scrabbled against his chest plate, seeking purchase. "Captain!" Campbell's voice shouted through the comm. "Orders? Hold position!" Alex grunted, grappling with the alien. "Do not engage!" The Aurelian was incredibly strong, her muscles straining against his armor's servos. Her face was inches from his, fangs bared in a feral snarl. Her yellow eyes burned with predatory intensity. "You will die," she spat, her translator rendering her words in harsh, broken English. "All humans die. Your blood will feed the sacred soil." Alex had seen footage of Aurelians in combat. He'd watched them tear through reinforced doors, rip apart combat mechs, and kill soldiers with a single bite. Their venom was neurotoxic, capable of paralyzing a human in seconds and causing death within minutes. He struggled to maintain his grip on her wrists, keeping those deadly claws away from the vulnerable seals of his armor. But she was fast, faster than any human could be, even with his enhanced battle systems. In a blur of movement, she twisted free of his grip and lunged for his neck. Her fangs sank into the exposed flesh between his helmet and chest plate. Alex felt the sharp pain of penetration, then a curious, tingling sensation. Nothing more. The Aurelian jerked back, her eyes widening in shock. She stared at him, fangs still dripping with his blood. You should be dead," she hissed, her voice trembling with something he hadn't heard from an Aurelian before. Fear, Alex reached up, wiping a drop of blood from his neck. The wound stung, but he felt no spreading numbness, no paralysis, none of the symptoms he'd been warned about. "Well, sorry to disappoint," he said with a slight smirk, genuinely surprised himself. The Aurelian backed away, her posture changing from aggressive to wary. She stared at him with those luminous yellow eyes, her head tilted in a gesture that seemed almost curious. "You are not like the others," she finally said, clenching her fists. "And now I need to know why." Alex lowered his weapon slightly, sensing the shift in her demeanor. "I guess you'll have to tolerate my company a little longer than you planned." She circled him again, but the movement was different now, assessing rather than threatening. The tension between them lingered, but it was no longer purely hostile. Something far more complicated now filled the space between them. "I am Lithia," she said after a long moment, her voice still carrying an edge but lacking its earlier murderous intent. "First hunter of the Aurelian Vanguard." "Captain Alex Rhodes," he replied. "United Earth Defense Force." Lithia's eyes narrowed. "Your blood should have turned to fire in your veins, your muscles should be seizing, your breath should be stopping." She leaned closer, inhaling deeply. "Yet you stand, unaffected. This has never happened." Alex maintained his stance, alert but no longer expecting an immediate attack. "Maybe humans aren't as weak as you thought." "Or maybe," she said, her voice dropping to almost a whisper, "you are not merely human." The implications of her words hung in the air between them, creating a new kind of tension, one filled with mystery and unspoken possibilities. The twin suns of Nexus 9 began their slow descent toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the alien landscape. Alex and Lithia had maintained their wary distance since their initial confrontation, each studying the other with a mixture of curiosity and caution. "Your team is watching us," Lithia noted, her yellow eyes flicking toward the dense foliage where Lieutenant Donovan and Sergeant Campbell remained hidden. "They fear for you." "They're just doing their job," Alex replied, touching the small wound on his neck. The bleeding had stopped, leaving only 2 puncture marks as evidence of her attack. Can't blame them for being cautious around someone who tried to kill their commanding officer. Lithia's lips curled into what might have been a smile, revealing the tips of her fangs. "If I had truly tried to kill you, human, we would not be having this conversation." "Is that so?" Alex raised an eyebrow, unable to suppress a slight grin. There was something about her fierce confidence that he found oddly appealing. "From where I'm standing, your best shot didn't exactly pan out." The Aurelian's golden skin seemed to shimmer with indignation. "My venom has dropped creatures 3 times your size in seconds. Your survival is an anomaly." Alex activated his comm unit. "Donovan, Campbell, stand down and join us. Maintain alert status but holster weapons." "Sir?" Donovan's voice crackled with concern. "Are you certain that's wise?" "That's an order, Lieutenant." A moment later, his 2 squad members emerged from the undergrowth, their expressions tense as they approached. Campbell's hand hovered near her sidearm, her eyes never leaving Lithia. "This is Lithia, first hunter of the Aurelian Vanguard," Alex introduced, "and it seems we have an opportunity here." "An opportunity, sir?" Campbell asked skeptically. "For dialogue," Alex clarified. "Something that's been in short supply between our species." Lithia studied the human soldiers with predatory intensity. "Your immunity to my venom is unprecedented. It suggests possibilities we had not considered." "Such as?" Alex prompted. "Such as the potential for coexistence," she replied, though the words seemed to come reluctantly. "If humans possess natural resistance to our biological weapons, perhaps the High Council's assessment of your species requires revision." Alex considered this. The conflict between humans and Aurelians had been escalating for years, with diplomatic efforts repeatedly failing. Both sides viewed the other as aggressive expansionists, threats to their respective territories and ways of life. If his unusual immunity could open a door to communication, "I propose a meeting," he said decisively, "between your leadership and mine." Lithia's yellow eyes narrowed. "The High Council does not meet with lesser species." "Lesser?" Campbell bristled, but Alex silenced her with a gesture. "A species immune to your primary biological advantage hardly seems lesser," he countered. Unless, of course, the mighty Aurelians fear what such a meeting might reveal. It was a calculated risk, challenging her pride. But Alex had studied enough about Aurelian culture to know they responded to strength and daring. Showing weakness or hesitation would only reinforce their belief in human inferiority. Lethea's claws extended slightly, then retracted, a sign of internal conflict. "You are bold, Captain Rhodes, perhaps foolishly so." "I prefer to think of it as pragmatic," he replied. "Both our species have lost lives in this conflict. If there's a path to understanding, don't we owe it to our people to explore it?" The Aurelian female circled him again, her movements fluid and graceful despite her obvious strength. Alex found himself tracking her motion, not just from tactical necessity, but with a more primal awareness. Even in her aggressive state, there was something undeniably captivating about her. "The ascension complicates matters," she said finally. "During this cycle, my kind are not always rational in the presence of potential mates." "I thought we were potential prey, not mates," Alex remarked, a hint of teasing in his voice. Lethea's eyes flashed. "The line between predator and mate is not always clear for Aurelians. The strongest survive our attention, whatever form it takes." The implication hung in the air between them, creating a new tension that Alex hadn't anticipated. He cleared his throat, suddenly aware of Donovan and Campbell's discomfort. "Set up a perimeter camp," he ordered them. "Standard protocols, rotating watch. I'll continue discussions with our guest." Once they had moved away to comply, Alex turned back to Lethea. "If the ascension makes diplomatic meetings difficult, perhaps we can arrange something after your cycle completes." "It does not work that way," she said, her voice lower now. "The ascension lasts for weeks, and its effects can only be resolved through specific biological processes." Alex felt heat rise to his face that had nothing to do with Nexus 9's climate. "I see. Do you?" Lethea moved closer, her scent reaching him, something wild and exotic, like cinnamon and ozone. "I wonder if humans truly understand the drives that govern other species." "We have our own drives," Alex replied, maintaining his composure despite her proximity. "They're just generally kept separate from diplomatic negotiations." A sound emerged from Lethea that took Alex a moment to identify as laughter, rich and melodic despite its predatory edge. "Your species compartmentalizes what cannot be divided," she said. "Body and mind, desire and duty, diplomat and warrior. Aurelians recognize no such false boundaries." "Different evolutionary paths," Alex suggested, finding himself strangely drawn to her perspective despite its alienness. "Different solutions to survival." "And yet," Lethea reached out, her clawed finger tracing the puncture wounds on his neck with surprising gentleness. "Here we stand, neither of us dead, having this conversation. Perhaps our paths are not so different after all." The touch sent an unexpected shiver down Alex's spine. He told himself it was merely a biological response to potential danger, but some deeper part of him recognized it as something else entirely. "Tell me about your immunity," she continued, her fingers still resting against his skin. "Is it common among humans?" "I don't know," he admitted. "As far as I'm aware, no human has survived an Aurelian bite before." "Then you are unique," she said, her yellow eyes studying him with renewed interest. "A singular specimen." "I'm just a soldier," Alex replied, though he knew that wasn't entirely true. His military file contained classified sections even he wasn't permitted to access: genetic modifications, experimental treatments, procedures conducted during his reconstruction after the Battle of Europa. Could one of those be responsible for his resistance? "No," Lethea said with certainty. "You are more than that. I can sense it." The directness of her gaze made him uncomfortable, and as if she could see through his armor, his skin, to something essential within him. He stepped back, creating distance. "We should focus on establishing communication between our leadership," he said, redirecting the conversation. "What would it take to arrange a meeting with your High Council?" Lethea seemed amused by his retreat. "The Council resides in the Sacred Citadel, 3 days' journey from here. They would never agree to meet with humans unless presented with compelling evidence." "Would my immunity qualify?" "Perhaps," she conceded, but they would require proof beyond my word alone. Then I'll provide it, Alex decided. I'll accompany you to this citadel. Lethea's expression registered surprise. You would willingly enter the heart of Aurelian territory? Alone? Not alone, he corrected. With you. My protection would not guarantee your safety, she warned, especially during ascension. Many would see you as either threat or prize. I'll take my chances, Alex said. Sometimes the greatest risks yield the greatest rewards. Lethea studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Your courage is admirable for a human, but there is another matter to consider, which is the journey itself, and she said, 3 days in close proximity while I am in ascension. My bite may not affect you, but there are other biological imperatives at work. Alex felt that same heat rise to his face again. I'm sure we can maintain professional boundaries. Lethea's laugh returned, richer this time. Professional boundaries, she repeated, as if the concept were absurd. You truly do not understand Aurelian biology. Then educate me, he challenged. Her yellow eyes seemed to glow more intensely. During ascension, we seek worthy mates, those who can match our strength, withstand our ferocity. It is not a matter of choice or restraint, but biological necessity. And the fact that I'm human doesn't disqualify me, Alex asked, genuinely curious now. It should, Lethea admitted. Yet you survived my venom. In Aurelian terms, that makes you... She seemed to search for the right word. Compatible. The implication hung between them, heavy with possibility. Alex found himself considering it not with the revulsion one might expect at the thought of interspecies relations, but with a curious heat that spread through his body. I see, he said finally, and if we were to undertake this journey together, the biological imperative would become increasingly difficult to resist, she finished for him, for both of us. Alex considered his options. The diplomatic opportunity was too significant to ignore. If he could establish communication between human and Aurelian leadership, potentially end a conflict that had cost thousands of lives, wasn't that worth personal risk? And if he were being completely honest with himself, the risk Lethea described didn't feel entirely unwelcome. There was something about her strength, her directness, the fierce intelligence behind those predatory eyes, that called to something primal within him. I'm willing to accept those conditions, he said finally, if it means a chance at peace between our species. Lethea's expression shifted to one of respect mingled with something more heated. Then we leave it at first light. I suggest you inform your team of your decision. Alex nodded, activating his comm unit again. Donovan, Campbell, return to my position. When his squad members rejoined them, Alex outlined his plan. Their reactions were predictably concerned. Captain, with all due respect, this is insane, Donovan protested. Entering Aurelian territory alone, with only her word as protection? I have to agree with the lieutenant, sir, Campbell added. Command would never authorize this. Which is why I'm not asking for authorization, Alex replied firmly. This is a tactical decision based on the field conditions. I'm creating an opportunity for diplomatic contact that may not come again. And if it's a trap, Donovan pressed, Alex glanced at Lethea, who watched the exchange with evident interest. Then I'll deal with it, but I don't believe it is. Your trust is misplaced, Lethea interjected, surprising them all. If I wished to trap you, I would not invent an elaborate ruse involving a 3-day journey and fictional diplomatic meetings. I would simply kill you now. Her bluntness did little to reassure Donovan and Campbell, but Alex found himself suppressing a smile. Noted, he said, but my decision stands. You two will return to the forward operating base and report that I'm pursuing a diplomatic initiative. Request that command hold any aggressive actions until they hear from me directly. And if you don't return, sir, Campbell asked quietly, then you can name something unpleasant after me, Alex replied with a grim smile. But I intend to return with a path to peace, if possible. As night fell on Nexus 9, the team established a small camp. Lethea remained with them, maintaining a respectful distance but clearly observing their procedures with interest. When Donovan and Campbell retired to their portable shelters for rest before their pre-dawn departure, Alex found himself alone with the Aurelian hunter by the small, contained heat source they'd established. Your subordinates care for you, Lithia observed. They fear for your safety. They're good soldiers, and Alex replied, and good people. Yet you dismiss their concerns. Not dismiss, he corrected. Weigh against other factors. The potential benefit outweighs the risk. Lithia moved closer, her golden skin reflecting the light of their heat source. And what of the personal risk I described? Does that factor into your calculations, Captain Rhodes? Alex met her gaze steadily. It does. And? She prompted. And I'm still here, he said simply. Something shifted in her expression, a softening perhaps, or a new kind of interest. You are unlike any human I have encountered. I could say the same about you and Aurelians, he replied. The difference, so she said, leaning closer, is that I have killed many humans. You are the first to survive my attention. Her proximity sent that same shiver through him, a mixture of danger and something more primal. The scent of her, wild and exotic, filled his senses. Lucky me, he murmured. Luck had nothing to do with it, Lithia countered. There is something in your blood, your essence, that resists our venom. Something unique. Her hand reached out again, this time resting against his chest plate. Even through the armor, Alex could feel the heat of her touch. I would understand what makes you different, she continued, her voice lower now. What makes you immune? Scientific curiosity? Alex asked, his own voice rougher than he intended. Lithia's lips curved into that predatory almost smile. Among other curiosities. The tension between them had transformed completely from their first encounter. The threat of violence remained. Lithia was still a dangerous predator, especially in her current biological state. But it was now interwoven with something equally powerful, attraction. Alex knew he should maintain distance, establish clear boundaries before their journey began. But as Lithia's face drew closer to his, her yellow eyes reflecting the light of the heat source, he found himself unwilling to retreat. This is probably a bad idea, he murmured as the distance between them decreased. Most worthy ideas are, she replied, her breath warm against his face. When their lips met, it was neither gentle nor tentative. Lithia kissed as she fought, with fierce intensity and total commitment. Alex responded in kind, his hands finding her waist, pulling her against his armored form. Her fangs grazed his lower lip, not breaking the skin, but reminding him of their presence. The danger inherent in their contact only heightened the sensation, sending heat coursing through his body. When they finally separated, both were breathing heavily. Lithia's eyes had taken on a deeper glow, and Alex could feel his heart racing in his chest. The journey to the Citadel will be challenging, she said, her voice husky. I'm beginning to understand that, Alex replied, surprised by the depth of his own response to her. Lithia stepped back, creating distance between them. Rest while you can, Captain Rhodes. You will need your strength. As she moved away to establish her own resting place at the edge of their camp, Alex watched her go, aware that he had just crossed a threshold from which there was no easy return. Whatever happened on their journey to the Aurelian Citadel, nothing between their species would ever be quite the same again. And despite all his training and discipline, he found himself looking forward to the dawn with an anticipation that had little to do with diplomacy. The first sun of Nexus 9 crested the horizon, bathing the alien landscape in amber light. Alex had spent a restless night, his thoughts alternating between the diplomatic mission ahead and the unexpected heat of Lithia's kiss. By the time he emerged from his portable shelter, Donovan and Campbell had already packed their equipment, preparing for their return to base. Final chance to reconsider, Captain, Donovan said quietly, checking the charge on his pulse rifle. Appreciate the concern, Lieutenant, but my decision stands, Alex replied, securing the last of his survival gear to his utility belt. He'd opted to leave his heavy battle armor behind, taking only the lighter tactical suit beneath. The armor would slow him down, and if he was being honest with himself, create an unwelcome barrier between his skin and whatever might happen on this journey. Campbell approached, handing him a small device. Emergency beacon, sir. Range is limited in this atmosphere, but if you get within 50 clicks of any UEDF outpost, they'll pick up the signal. Alex nodded, tucking the beacon into a secure pocket. Thank you, Sergeant. Now get moving before Command sends a search party for all of us. After a final exchange of salutes, his team departed, disappearing into the purple foliage. Alex turned to find Lethea watching him from the edge of the clearing, her golden skin gleaming in the morning light. "Your warriors show admirable loyalty," she observed. "They're good people," Alex replied, shouldering his pack. "Ready to move out?" Lethea nodded, her silver hair catching the light as it shifted. "We travel north, through the Valley of Whispers. It is the most direct route to the Citadel." Lead the way, they set off at a brisk pace, Lethea moving with the fluid grace of a natural predator. Alex found himself admiring the efficiency of her movement, the way she navigated the alien terrain with instinctive ease. Without his heavy armor, he matched her stride for stride, his enhanced physiology allowing him to keep pace despite the planet's dense atmosphere. "You move well for a human," Lethea remarked after several hours of travel. "Most of your kind would be gasping for breath by now." "I'm not most of my kind," Alex replied with a slight smile. Clearly, her yellow eyes studied him with the same mixture of curiosity and heat he'd noticed the previous night. "Your physical capabilities exceed standard human parameters. Another anomaly, like your immunity to my venom?" Alex shrugged, unwilling to delve into the classified details of his enhancements. "Let's just say I've been through some upgrades." "Military modifications?" Lethea pressed. "Something like that." She seemed to accept his reticence, turning her attention back to their path. As they traveled, the landscape gradually changed, the dense purple vegetation giving way to rolling hills covered in what looked like metallic grass, each blade capturing and reflecting the sunlight in hypnotic patterns. By midday, they had reached the edge of what Lethea called the Valley of Whispers. Standing at its rim, Alex understood the name immediately. A constant, sibilant sound filled the air. Not wind through leaves, but something more melodic, almost like distant voices engaged in endless conversation. "What causes that sound?" he asked, fascinated. "The resonance plants," Lethea explained, pointing to tall, silver-stemmed growths that sway despite the absence of wind. "They communicate through vibrations. Some believe they are sentient, though no one has successfully decoded their language." As they descended into the valley, the whispers grew louder, surrounding them in a cocoon of alien sound. Alex found it oddly soothing, like the white noise generators used in military barracks to help soldiers sleep between combat rotations. "We will reach the outskirts of Karbosh by nightfall," Lethea said as they walked. "It is a trading settlement, one of the few places where Aurelians regularly interact with other species." "Other species besides humans?" "The galaxy is vast, Captain Rhodes. Your kind are not the only ones who reach for the stars." Alex absorbed this information with interest. UEDF intelligence had limited data on Aurelian relations with other spacefaring races. This could be valuable information, assuming he survived to report it. "Will my presence cause problem?" he asked. "Potentially," Lethea admitted. "Humans are rare in Aurelian territory, especially during ascension. But Karbosh operates under different customs than our core worlds. Outsiders are tolerated if not welcome." Tolerated. Comforting. Lethea's lips curved in that now familiar, almost smile. "Stay close to me, and you will remain safe." "Is that a promise, First Hunter?" "It is a statement of fact," she replied, but there was warmth in her voice that belied the formality of her words. "Though I should warn you, my protection comes with certain expectations in my current state." The heat in her gaze made her meaning clear. Alex felt his pulse quicken in response, remembering the intensity of their kiss the previous night. "I think I can handle your expectations," he said, his voice rougher than intended. "We shall see." They continued through the Valley of Whispers, the resonance plants seeming to bend toward them as they passed, their silver stems gleaming in the dual sunlight. The constant murmuring sound shifted in tone and rhythm, following their progress like an invisible audience. As the day wore on, Alex noticed subtle changes in Lethea's demeanor. She moved closer to him as they walked, occasionally brushing against him in ways that seemed deliberate rather than accidental. Her scent, that intoxicating blend of cinnamon and ozone, grew stronger, enveloping him whenever she drew near. "The ascension is progressing," she said when she caught him watching her. "My biology responds to your continued survival. It interprets it as compatibility." "And how do you interpret it?" Alex asked, genuinely curious about the distinction between her biological drives and personal agency. Lethea considered this for a moment. "Among my kind, There is less separation between biological imperative and personal desire than humans seem to maintain. We do not fight our nature, we channel it. That doesn't answer my question. She stopped walking, turning to face him fully. The intensity of her yellow gaze made his skin prickle with awareness. I find you intriguing, Alex Rhodes. Your strength, your resilience, your willingness to enter our territory alone. These qualities would be admirable in an Aurelian. That I find them admirable in a human is unexpected. It was the first time she had used his first name, and something about the way it sounded in her exotic accent sent a shiver of pleasure down his spine. I find you intriguing as well, he admitted, though I'm not sure how much is you and how much is this ascension pheromone you're apparently broadcasting. Lithia laughed, the sound rich and melodic against the background whispers of the valley. The ascension does not create attraction where none exists. It merely amplifies what is already present. Before Alex could respond, she had turned and resumed walking, leaving him to contemplate her words as he followed. By the time the ducal sons began their descent, the Valley of Whispers had given way to more cultivated terrain. Fields of what appeared to be crops stretched before them, their colors shifting from deep purple to burnished gold as they ripened. In the distance, Alex could make out structures, buildings of varying heights and designs, illuminated by lights that glowed with a soft blue radiance against the darkening sky. Carvash, Lithia announced. We will find lodging for the night and continue our journey in the morning. As they approached the settlement, Alex observed the activity with keen interest. Aurelians moved through the streets, their golden skin and predatory grace unmistakable, but among them walked other species, some humanoid, others decidedly not. He spotted beings with multiple limbs, others with exoskeletons that clicked as they moved, and still others whose forms seemed to shift and flow like liquid. Quite the melting pot, he remarked. Carvash exists for commerce, Lithia explained. Profit transcends species boundaries, it seems. They entered the settlement through an archway carved from what appeared to be a single massive bone, its surface etched with intricate patterns that glowed with the same blue light as the buildings. Guards stood at attention on either side, their armor more ceremonial than practical, but the weapons at their sides looked functional enough. One of the guards stepped forward as they approached, his eyes narrowing at the sight of Alex. First hunter, he acknowledged Lithia with a respectful inclination of his head. Your companion is unexpected. He is under my protection, Lithia stated firmly. We seek lodging for the night. The guard's gaze lingered on Alex, assessing. A human during ascension. The council will be informed of his presence when we reach the citadel, Lithia interrupted. Until then, he remains under my authority as first hunter. After a tense moment, the guard stepped aside. As you wish, but be warned, not all in Carvash will respect your claim during this cycle. They will learn respect if they challenge it, Lithia replied, her tone leaving no room for argument. As they moved into the settlement proper, Alex leaned closer to her. Your claim? A necessary fiction, she murmured. In Aurelian culture, during ascension, an unclaimed potential mate would be contested by others. By presenting you as already claimed, I reduce the likelihood of challenges. I see, Alex said, though the implication sent a mixture of alarm and arousal through him. And what does being claimed entail exactly? Lithia's eyes gleamed with amusement and heat. It means that I have marked you as mine, and any who wish to challenge that claim must first defeat me in combat. And have you? Marked me as yours? Her gaze dropped to the puncture wounds on his neck, still visible, though nearly healed. My bite did not kill you. In Aurelian terms, that is a mark of claiming, whether I intended it or not. The possessive undertone in her voice should have bothered him, Alex thought. Instead, he found himself oddly pleased by it, a reaction he attributed to the influence of her ascension pheromones, though a part of him suspected it went deeper than that. They made their way through the bustling streets of Carvash, drawing curious and occasionally hostile glances from the Aurelian population. The non-Aurelian residents seemed less concerned, perhaps accustomed to being outsiders themselves in this trading outpost. Lithia led him to a structure near the center of the settlement, a 3-story building constructed from the same bone-like material as the entry arch, its windows glowing with that distinctive blue light. A sign in multiple languages, including one Alex recognized as Standard Galactic, identified it as an inn. Inside, the atmosphere was warm and surprisingly convivial. Various species mingled around tables, drinking from containers of different designs and engaging in what appeared to be gambling games. A low hum of conversation in multiple languages filled the air, punctuated by occasional bursts of laughter or exclamations. The proprietor, an Aurelian male with streaks of gray in his silver hair, looked up as they entered. His yellow eyes widened slightly at the sight of Alex, but quickly returned to a professional neutrality. "First Hunter," he greeted Lethea, "an honor to host you. Your companion is welcome as well, of course." "We require lodging for the night," Lethea stated, "your most private accommodations." The proprietor nodded, his gaze flickering between them with knowing assessment. "Of course, if the summit room is available, separate from the other guests with its own entrance. Given your situation, it would be most appropriate." Alex wasn't sure if the situation referred to his being human in Aurelian territory or the obvious tension of Lethea's ascension, but he was grateful for the discretion either way. After completing the transaction with what appeared to be small, polished stones rather than currency, they were led to their accommodations, a spacious room at the top of the building, accessible via a private stairway. The furnishings were sparse but elegant, crafted from materials that resembled polished bone and some kind of iridescent wood. A large window offered a view of the settlement, now fully illuminated against the night sky. "This will serve," Lethea said, dismissing their guide with a nod. Once alone, Alex moved to the window, taking in the alien vista. Carvush was beautiful in its strangeness, the blue-lit buildings creating patterns against the darkness, the movement of a diverse species through the streets below, the unfamiliar constellations visible in the clear night sky. "Your first time in an Aurelian settlement," Lethea observed, moving to stand beside him. "That obvious?" "You observe everything with such intensity," she said, as if committing it to memory. "Force of habit," Alex admitted. "Military training, absorb and analyze your surroundings, identify potential threats and escape routes. Do you perceive threats here?" He turned to look at her, taking in the perfect golden skin, the luminous yellow eyes, the subtle tension in her powerful frame. "Just one." Rather than take offense, Lethea smiled, a full smile this time, revealing the tips of her fangs. A wise assessment. She moved closer, her scent enveloping him, stronger now in the confined space. Alex felt his heart rate increase, his body responding to her proximity with an intensity that surprised him. "The ascension grows stronger," she said, her voice lower, rougher. "Being alone with you, it accelerates the process." "Should I be concerned?" Alex asked, though concern was far from what he was feeling at that moment. "That depends," Lethea replied, reaching out to trace the line of his jaw with one clawed finger, careful not to break the skin. "On whether you wish to complete what we began last night." The directness of her proposition sent heat coursing through him. In human terms, their relationship had progressed at an alarming rate, from mortal enemies to potential lovers in less than 2 days. But they weren't operating under human terms, Alex reminded himself. Aurelian biology and culture followed different patterns, different expectations. And if he were being honest, there was something liberating about that difference, about engaging with her without the weight of human social conventions and expectations. "I do," he said simply, honestly, "but I need to understand what it means to you, to your people. I don't want to stumble into some cultural significance I'm not prepared for." Lethea seemed to appreciate his candor. "Among my kind, physical union during ascension can carry different meanings depending on context. Between established mates, it reinforces bonds. Between new partners, it can be the beginning of such bonds or merely a satisfaction of mutual need. And for us," she considered this, her yellow eyes searching his face, "we are unprecedented. A human and an Aurelian finding compatibility during ascension. There is no established protocol for our situation. So we make our own rule," Alex suggested. "Yes," she agreed, moving closer still. "We define our own meaning." When their lips met this time, it was with even greater intensity than before. Alex pulled her against him, one hand tangling in her silver hair, the other at the small of her back. Lethea responded with equal fervor, her claws carefully grazing his back through the material of his tactical suit. The heat between them built rapidly, months of tension compressed into moments. Lethea's fangs grazed his lower lip again, this time drawing a thin line of blood. She pulled back immediately, concern flashing in her eyes. "I did not intend—" "It's fine," Alex assured her, feeling the slight sting but nothing more. "Well, apparently I'm immune to that too." Relief and renewed desire replaced her concern. "Your resilience is extremely attractive by Aurelian standard." "Glad to hear it," he murmured, pulling her back to him. What followed was a discovery of differences and surprising similarities. Aurelian and human anatomy had evolved along different paths, yet the fundamentals of pleasure seemed universal. They learned each other's bodies with the same intensity they had brought to their initial confrontation. Testing, challenging, yielding when appropriate. Lethea's strength matched his own, her enhanced physiology allowing her to meet him as an equal in this as in combat. There was no need for restraint or caution between them, no fear of causing harm. It was liberating in ways Alex had never experienced with human partners. When they finally lay together in the aftermath, the blue light from the window casting patterns across their intertwined forms, Alex felt a profound sense of connection that transcended the physical. "Your immunity extends beyond my venom," Lethea observed, tracing patterns on his chest with one clawed finger. The secretions released during Aurelian mating would typically cause at least mild neurological effects in other species. "What kind of effects?" Alex asked, curious. "Disorientation, euphoria, temporary paralysis," she listed. "Useful evolutionary adaptations for a predatory species, ensuring that potential prey cannot escape during vulnerable moments." "Sounds inconvenient for interspecies relations," he remarked dryly. Lethea laughed, the sound vibrating against his chest where she rested. "It has limited our diplomatic options, yes." The casual mention of diplomacy reminded Alex of their ostensible mission. "Speaking of which, what should I expect when we reach your citadel? Assuming we make it that far." "We will make it," Lethea said with certainty. "As for what to expect, the High Council will be suspicious of your presence and your claims. They will want to test your immunity themselves." "More biting?" "Among other tests," she confirmed. "They will seek to understand what makes you different from other humans, and whether that difference represents opportunity or threat." Alex nodded, his tactical mind already considering approaches. "And what will you tell them about this?" He gestured between their bodies. Lethea propped herself up on one elbow, studying him with those luminous eyes. "The truth. That during Ascension, I found a compatible mate who survived my venom, a circumstance unprecedented in our records. They will find it scientifically significant, if culturally challenging." "And personally?" Alex asked, realizing how much he wanted to know her answer. "What does it mean to you, beyond biology and diplomacy?" She was silent for a long moment, her expression thoughtful. "I have lived my life as a hunter and warrior, Alex Rhodes. I have never sought permanent bonds, never considered a mate beyond the necessities of Ascension. Yet with you—" She paused, seeming to search for words. "With you, I find myself contemplating possibilities I had not previously allowed." The admission clearly cost her something in terms of pride, and Alex recognized the gift of her honesty. He reached up, brushing a strand of silver hair from her face. "I know what you mean," he said quietly. "This isn't what I expected when I came to Nexus 9, but I'm not sorry it happened." Lethea's expression softened, her usual predatory intensity giving way to something more vulnerable. "Nor am I." They remained like that for a time, the silence between them comfortable rather than tense. Eventually, Lethea spoke again. "We should rest. Tomorrow we continue to the Citadel, and the path grows more challenging." Alex nodded, though rest was the furthest thing from his mind as Lethea settled against him, her golden skin warm against his. As he held her, listening to the unfamiliar rhythm of her breathing as it slowed into sleep, he found himself contemplating the strange path that had led him here, from enemy to lover of an alien predator, potentially on the verge of changing relations between their species forever. Whatever happened at the Aurelian Citadel, Alex knew with absolute certainty that nothing would ever be the same again, for him, for Lethea, or for the future of human-Aurelian relations. And despite all the uncertainty ahead, he wouldn't have changed a single step of the journey that had brought them to this moment. Alex awoke to urgent knocking at their door. Beside him, Lethea was already alert, her predatory instincts bringing her instantly to full awareness. She slipped from the bed with fluid grace, pulling on her garments with efficient movements. "Stay here," she commanded, moving to the door with silent steps. When she opened it, the innkeeper stood there, his expression tense. "First Hunter, there is a situation developing. Word of your human companion has spread through Karavash overnight." "How?" Lithia demanded. The innkeeper's eyes darted nervously. "The guards at the gate, they spoke of a human traveling with you during Ascension. The implications were discussed." Alex joined them, now fully dressed in his tactical suit. "What kind of situation are we talking about?" The innkeeper regarded him with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. "A communication arrived from the High Council an hour ago. They demand your immediate presence, and..." He hesitated. "A delegation from your United Earth Defense Force has also made contact, requesting to meet with Captain Rhodes." Alex and Lithia exchanged glances. Their private journey had suddenly become very public. "How did UEDF even know I was here?" Alex wondered aloud. "The emergency beacon," Lithia suggested. "Perhaps it activated without your knowledge." Alex checked the device Campbell had given him. Its status light blinked red, active transmission. "Damn it! Must have triggered when we..." He trailed off, glancing at the innkeeper. "We leave immediately," Lithia decided. "Where is the UEDF delegation?" "They await you at the northern gate," the innkeeper replied. "The council's representatives are at the central plaza." Alex considered their options. "We need to control this narrative before it spirals further. Let's meet with both delegations together. Neutral ground." Lithia nodded in agreement. "The Temple of Convergence. It is considered sacred space where conflicts must be set aside." They moved swiftly through the streets of Karvash, now bustling with activity despite the early hour. Alex noticed the stares following them, some curious, others hostile, many simply assessing. News of their relationship had clearly spread, and with it, speculation about its significance. The Temple of Convergence stood at the heart of the settlement, a domed structure of pale bone and iridescent metal, its surface etched with symbols from multiple species' languages. Inside, a circular chamber opened beneath a vaulted ceiling that seemed to capture and amplify the light from outside, filling the space with a soft, diffuse glow. They arrived before either delegation, giving them a moment to prepare. "This changes everything," Alex said quietly, pacing the circumference of the chamber. "We're no longer operating independently." "Perhaps it is for the best," Lithia suggested, her yellow eyes tracking his movement. "What we have discovered, your immunity, our compatibility, it is too significant to remain private knowledge." Before Alex could respond, the temple doors opened. Two groups entered simultaneously from opposite sides of the chamber, eyeing each other with evident suspicion. The UEDF delegation consisted of Commander Eliza Harrington, a stern woman with close-cropped gray hair, accompanied by two armed guards and, to Alex's surprise, Lieutenant Donovan. The Aurelian representatives included three members of what appeared to be their diplomatic corps, distinguished by elaborate silver markings on their golden skin, and a tall, imposing male who carried himself with unmistakable authority. "High Counselor Varrock," Lithia acknowledged with a formal gesture of respect. "I did not expect your personal attendance." "The circumstances demanded it," Varrock replied, his voice deep and resonant. His gaze shifted to Alex, assessing. "So this is the human who survives our venom." "Captain Rhodes," Commander Harrington interjected sharply, "you've exceeded your mission parameters and potentially compromised UEDF operations in this sector. Explain yourself." Alex stepped forward, positioning himself between the two delegations. "With respect, Commander, I've discovered something that could change the course of human-Aurelian relations. My immunity to Aurelian biological agents represents an unprecedented opportunity for peaceful interaction between our species. Your interaction with the First Hunter has already caused diplomatic complications," Harrington replied coldly. "We've received formal protests from 3 Aurelian outposts regarding what they term a biological violation." "There was no violation," Lithia stated firmly. "Our union was mutual and consensual." High Counselor Varrock's expression remained impassive, but his yellow eyes gleamed with interest. "Is this true, human? You willingly joined with an Aurelian during Ascension?" "I did," Alex confirmed without hesitation. "And in doing so, we discovered that my immunity extends beyond just the hunting venom. All Aurelian biological secretions have no adverse effect on me. This statement caused a stir among both delegations. The Aurelian diplomats conferred in hushed tones, while Commander Harrington's expression darkened further. "Do you understand what you've done, Captain?" she demanded. "You've engaged in unauthorized genetic experimentation, potentially exposing yourself, and by extension, humanity to unknown biological risks." "With respect, Commander," Alex countered, "I've opened a door that's been closed for decades. The conflict between our species has cost thousands of lives on both sides. If my immunity can lead to understanding—" "Your immunity requires explanation," Varric interrupted. "No species has ever demonstrated resistance to our biological agents. It defies evolutionary logic." Alex hesitated, aware he was about to reveal classified information, but the stakes were too high for secrets now. "After the Battle of Europa, I underwent experimental reconstruction," he explained. "The procedures included genetic modifications derived from recovered alien technology. The specifics were classified, even from me." Lethea moved to stand beside him, her presence a silent show of support. Whatever the source of his immunity, the fact remains that it exists. And with it, the possibility of genuine coexistence between our species. "Coexistence?" Harrington scoffed. "The Aurelians have shown no interest in peaceful relations. They've attacked our colonies, sabotaged our outposts. As you have encroached on our territories and exploited resources sacred to our people," Varric countered. "Each transgression justified as defense against the other." "Then perhaps it's time to break that cycle," Alex suggested. "My immunity proves that our species can interact without harm. What if that's just the beginning? What if there are other compatibilities we haven't explored because we've been too busy fighting?" A thoughtful silence fell over the chamber. Alex could see the calculations happening behind Varric's eyes, the weighing of possibilities against centuries of hostility. "The Council would require proof," Varric said finally, "documented evidence of this immunity under controlled conditions." "I'm willing to provide it," Alex offered, "under joint supervision, both UEDF and Aurelian observers." Commander Harrington stepped forward. "Captain Rhodes does not have the authority to make such offers. He will return with us immediately for debriefing and medical evaluation." "No," Alex stated firmly. "With respect, Commander, I'm pursuing a legitimate opportunity for peace. If you want to court-martial me afterward, that's your prerogative." Lethea's hand found his, her claws gentle against his skin. The gesture was not lost on either delegation, a physical manifestation of their unprecedented bond. "There is another consideration," Lethea said, addressing both leaders. "During Ascension, Aurelians form connections that transcend the physical. What has begun between Captain Rhodes and myself cannot simply be severed by diplomatic decree." Varric's eyes narrowed. "You claim a mating bond with a human?" "I claim what exists," Lethea replied evenly. "Our biologies have proven compatible in ways none thought possible. Perhaps our societies can achieve the same." The High Counselor studied them for a long moment, then made a decision. "The Council will permit controlled testing of the human's immunity. If verified, we will consider opening formal diplomatic channels." "The UEDF has not agreed to this," Harrington protested. "Then you risk losing the opportunity entirely," Varric replied. "Captain Rhodes has demonstrated his willingness to participate. The choice is yours, Commander." Alex watched Harrington struggle with the decision, her military discipline warring with diplomatic necessity. "Lieutenant Donovan will remain as UEDF observer," she conceded finally. "But I want daily reports, and at the first sign of danger, we extract our personnel immediately." "Agreed," Varric said with a formal nod. As the details were arranged between the delegations, Alex and Lethea stepped aside for a moment of privacy. "Not exactly how I planned to introduce you to my superiors," Alex said with a wry smile. Lethea's eyes gleamed with amusement. "Nor I you to mine. But perhaps it is fitting. Our union was never going to be conventional." "Union," Alex repeated, testing the word. "Is that what we have?" "We have begun something without precedent," she replied, her voice softening. "A connection between species that were thought incompatible. Whatever name we give it, the fact remains that I cannot imagine returning to a world where you do not exist in my life." The simple honesty of her statement touched something deep within him. In the short time they had known each other, they had moved from enemies to lovers to something more profound, in pioneers of a new possibility. "Neither can I," he admitted. Whatever happens with these tests with our respective militaries, I'm not walking away from what we found. Lithia's expression softened further, her usual predatory intensity giving way to something more vulnerable. Then we face what comes together. Their private moment ended as the delegations concluded their negotiations. The path ahead was set. They would travel to a neutral research facility where Alex's immunity could be tested under controlled conditions, with representatives from both species present. As they prepared to depart Carvash, Alex found himself reflecting on the strange journey that had brought him here. What had begun as a standard reconnaissance mission had transformed into something that might change the course of interspecies relations forever. And at the heart of it all was the simple biological miracle that Lithia's lethal bite, capable of killing any other species in the known galaxy, had left him unharmed. That single moment of survival had opened the door to understanding, to connection, and perhaps to peace. As they walked together toward the waiting transport, Lithia's hand found his again. In that touch was a promise that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them not as human and Aurelian, but as partners who had discovered that the boundaries between their species were far more permeable than anyone had imagined. And in that discovery lay hope for a future neither of them could have envisioned just days before. A future where the bite that should have killed him instead gave birth to something new and unprecedented. A future they would build together.